Hi. So you're here to get your estate plan done. First, let me commend you for being intentional and being proactive looking into getting this planning done. What I find happens so often with many people, many families, your biggest enemy in this planning is procrastination, putting it off, saying you'll get to it next month, in the next few weeks, maybe next year. What I've seen happen time and time again is putting it off often leads to never getting it done. And that eventually leads to leaving your family with a chaotic and expensive mess to clean up when you're gone. But we're here to avoid that. So congrats on getting to this first step. But let's start with where you're at right now. What do you have? Do you have an old, outdated will? Or maybe you don't have a will at all. Maybe you've heard everybody needs a will. A lot of people think estate planning is just a will. And don't get me wrong, a will is a critical part of any estate plan. But your plan is so much more than any document or set of documents. Done properly, this planning is a process. You see, it's not so much the documents that they're important, they're critical, but it's the thinking and planning and consideration you do with a skilled estate planning attorney to come up with what we eventually do in those documents. It's a process of sitting with yourself and us and skillfully considering key questions like, what do I want to happen to all my assets, my stuff, when I die? Who do I want it to go to? Who don't I want it to go to? Just as important. How do I want it to go to them? And if you have kids, how old are they? If they're under 18, under 10, under 5, who is going to take care of them if you were to pass away unexpectedly? And if your kids are on the older side, how do you want your inheritance to go to them? All at once in a lump sum, or do you want to spread that out to them over time in ages and stages? If you don't have a plan for this, I've got good news and bad news for you. The good news is you actually do have a plan. The bad news is it's not your plan. It's the plan the state prepared for you, and you're not going to like that plan. This is where our planning comes into play. We help you develop a plan of your choosing, not of the state's choosing, of what's best for you and your family. But let's start with the basics. An estate plan and a will are not the same thing. Most people have at least a general idea of what a will is. A will says who you want all your assets to go to when you die, but that's the kicker. Most people don't know more than that. And it's critical to know and understand what happens and exactly how a will works and the probate process works and doesn't work so you can do the best thing for your family. What happens when you die, when anyone dies? By law, all of your assets are immediately frozen. They can't move, nobody can do anything with them. That means if you pass along property that's only in your name and you pass away, whoever you intend to get it to can't do anything with it until they get that property unfrozen. And how does your family get this unfrozen? They got to go to court. It's called the probate court. What's that like? How long does the unfreezing of the assets process take? Maybe a few weeks, maybe a couple of months at most? Wrong. Try minimum 9 to 12 months. And that's only if everything goes smoothly and as planned. If anyone comes forward to challenge the will, like a creditor or an estranged family member, maybe that brother or sister-in-law that only puts their head up once money's involved, but that hasn't talked to you since, then all bets are off, and your estate can stay frozen in probate court for years. Oh, and another thing about probate, it's not cheap. How much does this months-long or even years-long probate process cost your family? Generally, you're looking anywhere from 3 to 7% of the value of your estate. So for example, just to keep the math easy, let's think the value of everything you own is $1 million. Take the value of your principal residence without the mortgage, if you have any mortgage, value of all your bank accounts, all your possessions, everything you own. Let's get a nice round number like, let's say $1 million. You may own significantly more than that. What's 3 to 7% of $1 million? You're talking many tens of thousands of dollars, on the low end $30,000, $70,000, or even more. Where does that money come from? That money comes from out of your estate. It's not technically a tax, but it might as well be. It's what your family is going to have to pay the probate process right off the top before they receive any of your inheritance. Also, the probate process is completely public. Your family will have to submit your will to the court. And in that process, it becomes public to anybody. Anybody can call up the court and get a copy of any of your will or any of your filings. Your financials are an open book. You may be saying, Len, are you telling me that I shouldn't have a will? That's not what I'm saying at all. If you have nothing, a will is miles better than having nothing at all, because at least then you're giving the court a roadmap, a written, legally enforceable roadmap as to what you actually want to happen to all your assets. If you get nothing else from this planning process, get your will done. It's critical. But if you're like many families I talk to, given your family dynamics and the assets that you have, the discussion shouldn't stop at a will. And that's what we're going to do in your vision planning session. We talk about what's important for your family and what you want for your family and assets in this planning. We also talk about ways your family can avoid court and conflict, avoid probate, the cost, publicity, and frustration. We look forward to seeing you in our vision session.